Hello everyone, in this video we're going to go a bit more in depth with MicroVerse. So here we are in my scene. First of all, I wanted to explain why we're doing another video on MicroVerse and we're not continuing with Game Creator 2. Reason is quite simple actually. Simply put, Game Creator is going to get a major update. I think they're scheduled for this week. And basically these updates will change a lot, improve a lot, but it also will reset quite a bit of the values we're inputting in actions and variables, meaning I will cover that in a separate video where we'll upgrade our project together. So we'll do it from scratch, just to make sure that your project is compatible with the latest update. Now that also means that doing any Game Creator 2 work now kind of seems a tiny bit pointless if we have to redo everything we're going to add now. So that's why I put that on hold until Game Creator 2 gets its updates. So wanted to cover a couple of things I've actually had some questions about after my last video covering MicroVerse, and yeah, I just want to show a couple of tips and tricks I've learned, which is not that much yet. As you can see, it's a really big terrain. But it's actually still work in progress. It's actually not that big. The island itself is it's a stamp that I modified of 1800 by 1800, which obviously isn't the entire terrain, so it's actually smaller. Added some different islands, so it's a 4K map, but the actual playable terrain is much smaller than that. Reason I'm doing that is that I know a lot of people want to create the biggest maps possible. It's already difficult to get and really time consuming to get something this, it's not small, but you get what I mean. It's not that big, to get that detailed enough. Obviously I'm nowhere near done, but I think it's a decent start. I think it's a pretty okay start, but it's already difficult to make this detailed, so let alone doing this for really huge maps. It's really time consuming. I think a lot of people really underestimate that, and having things automatically generated doesn't mean it's going to look good, so yeah. Anyway, let's get started with a couple of the basics. So first of all, height stamps. For example, if you have a look at my terrain, the base, this is what it looks like. It's not completely flat. We have some texture here. So the way I did that, so we have the main island, which is this stamp. Then we have this island as a second stamp. This is some extra stuff. And then we have these stamps. So these stamps are actually really not high. So as you can see, they're only 10 high. And with a big range, and they're basically creating some ocean floor texture. That's pretty much what it's doing, to make sure we don't just have a flat ocean floor, and it adds some texture. I added a couple of these, so we have 1, 2, 3, and really big one under that as well. The really big ones, so I added these as max, meaning they won't influence everything that is higher than your current. If your current terrain is higher, they won't be impacted. So these, for example, with 10 high, will not impact anything here on the mainland. We'll have a slight, no, not even an impact here either. No, it's really small. And yeah, that's how I added some detail in the islands. As you can see, I have a couple of islands here, so some stuff sticking out. So with a boat, you'll be able to go to the other islands, so it won't be completely barren, but again, it limits the amount of detail you will need to add. So let's have a look at texturing. So I've had some questions about texturing, especially shorelines. I used to use Magic before, and after that I've used some other tools, including Gaia. In Magic, doing shorelines was actually quite difficult. Gaia was really easy, and here again it's really easy as well. So this is my main texture, which I'm going to disable now. So that's my grass. Again, the order of your layers matters, so that's not random. So it actually matters, has an impact. For now, I'm going to turn this off just to show you how I did the shoreline, because it's actually quite simple. So when you add a texture stamp, you have to keep one thing in mind. You can change all of these textures. You don't need a ton of different stamps pre-set up. If you don't have them, you can just add your own, change these, drop them in here, and you create your own stamps. It's really that simple. So just change this texture to, if I wanted to do, well, let's make sure, terrain sand 02. Actually, I don't want to change it until if it messes up my project. But yeah, anyway, just change the layer like that. Then the important thing here is the height, and that's the range. So changing these ranges is how high it will go. And you have 4 of them, so that's why you will still see some sand, because you have 4 layers you need to take into account. So this one, you know, by default I set it to 4. That's the highest it will go. And then we have rock, which is this one, which works the same. We have some smoothing values as well, by the way. Same with the sand, we have some smoothing values, so you can change those. This is the lowest value it will start, so the bottom of the floor is going to be 0 on Y, so it needs to start at 0, and then it can only go to 5 if I need it to be higher. If your terrain's higher, you set it to 10, etc. Just keep in mind you do the same for the other layers here as well. It's easy to forget that, so keep that in mind. Then we have slopes. So for example here, this rock has a slope, and what that does is, well, is literally this. So in order to make sure you know, there's no full cover of rock on our entire bottom, you know, we do it like that. So did I change it back? No, I didn't. Okay. Let's make sure it was the same. I think it was 60, 86. Yeah, something like that. Anyway, so then with sand, same thing here. This one has a slope. You don't need to do that. You know, you can do whatever you want, but it's different textures. So for this one, I wanted to make sure that there was no slope. This is just basic sand. It needs to get to a certain point, and it will get there. Pretty much it. Then we have our base texture. Which, as you can see, it overlays part of the sand. Now you can change how much it will do that. So again, this one works with a height value, and it has a lot of easing. Now it's the same type of rock as the sand stamp uses, so that's why it also starts at 0. So it has a perfect overlay. It's a bit double up. You don't actually need to have all of that, but you know, I use pre-existing stamps, so that's why I have multiple. And then here, you know, if you don't want it to overlay that much, you can have it start at 50. That's too much, so we have 40, 45, and well, you can basically see the reason why I had some, you know, had it start here with some more easing. Just looks a tiny bit better. Keep in mind, once you zoom in a bit, if we can select this one, yeah, with the vegetation it will look different anyway. But yeah, it's that's how you basically change these values. If I would have done it like this, or 45, what is it, like this, it would have looked yeah, it would have pretty much looked like this. So yeah, that's pretty much how the layering works of textures. Again, you have slope, you have angles. There's more you can do with it, but let's have a look at vegetation now. That's the other big thing, of course. How do you make sure that the grass, for example, it grows by default without having to manually do everything, and every time you change something, that the grass will only be on the grass textures and not on the sand textures? So I will skip to grass straight away. So we have two grass here, tall grass and medium grass. So the tall grass, obviously it has the height, just to be absolutely sure, which kind of matches you know, the terrain texturing. We have a slope as well to make sure it doesn't grow here, for example, on but you can also just do texture exemptions. So with texture exemptions, you can make sure it doesn't grow on rock. Now, I missed this one, so if I want to add that, I will simply press here, add an element, and then I will need to find the rock I was using in this one, I think it was, and it's simply called terrain rock. I'm gonna go back to my grass, and here I find terrain rock, this one, and I'll add it. Now you will notice that it doesn't straight away have an effect. There's a reason for that. Is again, we have multiple here, so we have multiple that we need to add as the example exceptions. Now you will see the impact straight away, by the way. And then here we add one more, and that's the rock. And then yeah, I will have to do that with medium grass as well, because I have two different grass ones. So here, medium grass, you know, well, you get the gist. Basically, you set those as exemptions. Now the nice thing is that when you then change your terrain, so you make changes with the height, you add splines, which we'll do in a bit as well. You know, again, you don't have to change anything then. The vegetation will adapt accordingly. So if you add a new piece of grass somewhere, grass texture, then automatically you will have grass, you will have trees, because that's how it's set up. So it's a bit of work the first time you do it, and then when you mess around with your terrain, it's actually really simple. Cool. So yeah, that's grass, and then I didn't cover every grass because I have so there was still one little pluck here. That's because it also belongs to the it's also part of the flowers here. I think there's flowers somewhere, dense flowers, which actually has you know, the flowers, so you need to do the same exceptions. So that's how it works with vegetation. It works exactly you know, exactly the same with the trees as well, and that's to make sure that you know, on the sand we don't have any you know, we don't have any grass growing either. So yeah, pretty much it. Then next up, let's have a look at this one. So far from finished, but I have a stamp that literally is the entire city from one of the example scenes. I obviously need to adapt it to this terrain because I don't want to use the Cinti you know, meshes as terrain. I want to use actual terrain, so I'll need to adapt it, and it's not finished, far from it. And then what we do here is in the city stamp, it's just one clear stamp, and you will have a object example, which I think this one, or I think there was a default example from Meadow Forest, I think it was this one, which has it, and it's basically just using a clear stamp, and then you have the city and a clear stamp and a height stamp, and the height stamp is to make sure that everything is actually flat under, but don't worry, you can then alter that again with different height stamps, and the layering again matters a lot. So I have a lot of height stamps here, as you can see. They're actually really for the terrain here, so for the inner city, and I needed to make sure that these are above, you know, in the hierarchy, are lower than the original one. So order is quite important. Then here for water, I have a spline system, which I will show in a bit. So it's there's a couple of splines I have. So I have a spline system here as well for the roads. So I adjusted the road a bit, and you have the sand texture by default, which Again, at some point I'll replace it so everything matches properly. But yeah, that will be that's used for the road. So let's have a look at how the splines work. For the water, by the way, KWS has its own spline system for water, which I just overlay with the one from KWS. But yeah, you can use it for roads as well. So let's have a look here. Let's create a new spline, because that's one of the things I actually had to look up myself as well, because when you right click, you can add a lot of stamps. So you can right click MicroVerse height stamp, then you will get a height stamp somewhere, which is here. And then if you add that height stamp and you drag it around, as you can see, all desert. That's because here it's set as desert. If I would do it here, it will be grass and desert, because that's how the texturing works in this spot. So yeah, nice. That's how you can do the height stamps, add some variation, make it look pretty, add some noise, add some textures to make sure it looks like a regular stamp. Cool. But then when having a look at that, there's no actual spline, there's nothing related to spline, and that's because you actually need to use the Unity spline system and then add a MicroVerse script. So when we click on the spline system, you will also see spline here, and you will see these functions. You will see auto, smooth, and linear. So a couple of options, we'll go over them. So you add a point, you add another point, and you add another point. Cool. Then we press escape. I'm not sure what it is on Mac, but on Windows it's escape. And then we have our points. Now you can just change the values here, by the way, the height values. But right now you won't actually see that much. It's not really doing that much, because we still need to add the MicroVerse script. So if we type in spline and then spline path or area, whatever you choose, so we'll do spline path, it will then there we go. It will then create a path for us. We'll need to make some changes. So first of all, I'm going to lower this one a bit, and you will already see some effect. We'll lower it here as well. Cool. And here, you can move everything around, by the way. You can do it on feel like I'm doing right now, just guessing what I'm doing, or you can just do it based on values. Perfect. Then let's add a texture for a path. So I want this to be well, let's say I actually pick grass, like one of the grass ones I'm using, because for some reason I want it to be grass. There we go. So it adds a grass texture. Perfect. Already starts to look weird. That's awesome. Then we'll make it a bit wider. So we'll make it 4 wide. We can add some smoothness to this as well. There we go. So it looks good. Need to make sure this matches 2. So I think it was 4, and then 3. Trench just makes it a lot deeper. Yeah, as you can see, it's starting to create a grass path, which automatically adds the vegetation. If I would have made it bigger, so 6, and then where is it? Here as well, 6. Perfect. The reason you don't see any grass here is because I put a height restriction on the grass layer, by the way, which obviously doesn't look pretty here. But yeah, as you can see, you can just create your grass path. If you said no, I actually want it to be rock 1 that we did. There we go. You know, we now have our rock texture. If yeah, there we go. Then occlude details. I don't think there should have not been any grass, should there? I don't think there should have been grass. Oh, maybe I didn't do it with the medium one. I'm not sure. I don't think there should have been grass. Let's have a look here. Let's pick another. Maybe I picked that's the wrong rock. There we go. This is the rock we had the grass exception on. Now, as you can see, I didn't do it with the flowers, so there will be flowers. But yeah, that's how you easily create a path. I'm sure there will be some nicer textures you can use. But yeah, that's how you create a spline. That's what I did for the river. Just did sand and then added the river. If you're using something else instead of KWS, I'm sure there's something similar which you can use as well. So yeah, really cool, really easy. As you can see, the texturing, you know, everything automatically adapts. It's a really, MicroVerse is just such a really flexible system. I really like that everything just adapts to it. If I would have had my stamp here for the houses, wouldn't have had an impact. They would for the height stamps, everything would have still just been fine. Yeah, absolutely love it. It's such a good system. Obviously, you don't need to do a texture. You can just create a path like this, and you know, have it be like that. So yeah, spline system, really cool, really easy to use actually. Once you realize it, you can create higher resolutions for it as well, so it will actually look a bit better. But yeah, that's completely up to you. Add some noise. So let's say I revert this. We'll add some noise here, so simple noise, and then it will look less predictable basically, and it will look pretty nice. And our yeah, there we go. And you can make it look a bit more organic this way. Yeah, really like it. Again, you know, it's just a really great tool. Absolutely love it. So easy to modify, so easy to create our beautiful terrain. So yeah, I absolutely love it. I hope this was useful to some extent, and again, don't worry, we'll get back to Game Creator 2 real fast. Just wanted to show a couple of tips and tricks to at least show something, and then yeah, hopefully this week we'll see the release of the update of Game Creator 2 and its modules, and I'll be posting a video where together we'll be going through the entire process of making sure we don't lose any of our functionality, you know, any of our functionality of our project. So we'll do it together from the start. So again, sorry for the delay everyone on the videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.